The guy that's supposed to keep an eye on.
So, what's your name?
Don.
Don and
Jim Brenner.
Under the endless Utah desert sky, a teenager vanishes without a trace. His boots, caked in blood, are left behind. Neighbors whisper about bar fights, stolen guns, and violent men. Police chase the wrong suspects while casually walking through the very shed where Dylan Rounds was murdered. They don't realize it yet, but the killer is standing right beside them, smiling as he shows them around.
I told that kid to stay the hell out of Montello.
But that whole town, it's a crazy place.
Some other guy pointed a gun in my freaking face.
This is the story of Dylan's disappearance. 19-year-old Dylan Rounds wasn't your average teenager. While most kids his age were glued to screens or chasing nightlife, Dylan was chasing a dream, running his own farm in one of the most remote, unforgiving corners of the Utah desert. He had ambition, grit, and a 640-acre plot of land that he believed would launch his future. But in late May of 2022, that dream collapsed into a nightmare. On May 28th, Dylan called his grandmother early in the morning. Rain clouds were gathering, and he said he needed to move his grain truck into the shed before the storm hit. It was a quick call, his last known conversation with family, and after that, silence. Hours passed, then days. No one could reach him. His phone went dead. His truck sat abandoned. When his parents drove out to check on him, they expected maybe a broken-down vehicle or a delayed errand.
We have no clue. That's the point of a disappearance. You can't, if you know what's going to lead up to a disappearance, it's not going to happen.
Instead, they found his land eerily deserted. Dylan's guns were missing, his truck oddly tampered with, and his trailer looked disturbed. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. And what no one knew yet was that Dylan's killer was hiding in plain sight, already spinning lies. When deputies first arrived to investigate Dylan's disappearance, they didn't expect anything unusual. But then a neighbor stepped forward. His name was Jim Brenner, a grizzled farmer who lived alone in a trailer near Dylan's land. He offered to help the search, casually mentioning other shady locals who might be responsible. But then came a comment that froze the deputy in his tracks. "Well, I'll let you get down there before they disturb the crime scene." The deputy blinked. What crime scene? At this point, Dylan was still just missing. No proof of violence, no body, no crime. Yet here was Brenner, already talking like something terrible had happened.
Back that truck was here. It's just one thing after another. But he's a friend of mine.
Sure. You don't get rid of friends.
It could have been nothing, a slip of the tongue, a poor choice of words. But as the deputy drove on to meet Dylan's family, that strange remark lingered in his mind. Why would Brenner assume Dylan was dead? Why suggest there was already a crime scene waiting to be disturbed? At the time, no one knew it, but Brenner had just revealed far more than he realized. The man police thought was a helpful neighbor was quietly guiding them closer to the very spot where Dylan had been murdered.
He would definitely walk this. This is nothing for him.
well, only other thing we can do is go check his trailer, and then meet with search and rescue. Yeah.
His guns are there.
While Dylan's family pleaded for answers, locals pointed fingers in another direction. The name that came up again and again was Chase Venstra.
This Chase guy.
Chase Vector.
If you look up 2016 in August, they finally got a warrant to get in there. They didn't find him. They went back in. He was up in the attic, laying in traffic. They're the ones coming over stealing shit.
Are they?
Yeah. Chase Venstra and Robert Aviles are the one that robbed Michael Moore up here.
He was the type of man you didn't want to cross. Violent, volatile, with a history that included a 10-hour standoff with police. To the small desert community, Chase was a walking red flag. Witnesses said Dylan had recently run into him, and the encounter was tense. Chase was rumored to have threatened others in the area. pistol-whipping one man so brutally he abandoned his land in fear. If he could do that, what might he have done to a 19-year-old kid out on his own? The sheriff's office agreed. Chase became their prime suspect. They arrested him on unrelated charges, hoping to pressure him into talking. But Chase denied everything, insisting locals were spreading lies. Still, he was exactly the kind of man investigators expected in a case like this. Reckless, angry, dangerous. The problem? While police chased Chase through bars and back roads, Dylan's real killer was already sitting in custody on a minor firearms charge. Calm, quiet, and pretending to help. The truth was closer than anyone dared to imagine. The first undeniable clue appeared days into the search. Just south of Dylan's shed, investigators stumbled upon a chilling sight. A pair of boots. Not just any boots. Dylan's boots. Brand new, his size, tossed carelessly into the dirt. But it wasn't just their presence that set off alarms. They were stained. Dark patches soaked into the leather. Blood. For Dylan's father, the discovery was devastating. Dylan never went anywhere without his boots, and the idea that they'd been discarded in such a way was unthinkable. For detectives, it was confirmation that this wasn't just a case of a missing person. Something violent had happened. Still, the discovery raised as many questions as it answered. Why abandon the boots so close to Dylan's shed? Why leave them in plain sight? Was it carelessness or a taunt? Investigators sent the boots off for DNA testing, but the results would take time. Meanwhile, they pressed forward, still focused on Chase Venstra as the obvious suspect. What they didn't realize was that the truth was staring them right in the face. Because the shed where the boots were found, that was Jim Brenner's domain, the very place where Dylan had last been seen alive.
Don't tell anybody what he's doing.
Okay. So you weren't here when Dylan came down here? Is that kind of a mutual understanding that he can park stuff down here? Or?
Yeah, but he's supposed to let me know about it, a day ahead of time, because I was building a chicken coop in there. I don't know if you've seen it with all my tools on it.
Oh, yeah.
And I had it right in the middle, so I had light. He pulled everything out. He knocked my horse corral out. So I didn't know what the hell was going on.
So that's your horse on the other side of the
Yeah.
field here. Okay.
I don't know. That's just the way Dylan is. So I pulled the truck out. I took the wall out that he knocked out, and put that other panel in there, and I backed the truck in straight.
Oh, okay.
No, that's his truck right there. That fuel truck.
That fuel truck's his too.
Yeah.
Detectives doubled down on Chase Venstra. His violent record, his reputation in Montello's rough bars, and Dylan's recent encounter with him made him an easy target. Locals described Chase as a thug who stole, threatened, and terrorized anyone unlucky enough to cross his path.
He was
Where was he staying at?
a big thief in town, and so everybody was after him, and they finally told him to get the hell out of town and stay there.
Of course, he came back because he was just seen out here.
To investigators, it fit too neatly. Dylan flaunted his farming success, Chase needed money, and confrontation turned deadly. They tracked him to his usual haunts, like the Montello Cowboy Bar, where stories poured in. One bartender claimed Dylan and Chase had argued. Another said Chase had pistol-whipped a man so badly he fled town. The whispers painted Chase as a monster, and for a moment, everyone believed they had their man. Police finally arrested him on an outstanding warrant, dragging him into an interrogation room. But Chase played it cool. He denied knowing anything about Dylan, brushing off the accusations as gossip. He even claimed he could solve the whole case if charges against him disappeared.
I know we're not looking at you as a suspect or anything.
Anything at all, yeah.
No, we haven't for a while. We were able to figure that out. I mean, it didn't take much,
It was a desperate move, but detectives still considered him their best lead. What they didn't realize was that by chasing Chase, they were being led further from the truth. Dylan's real killer was closer than ever, hiding in plain sight. As weeks passed, attention began shifting back toward Dylan's neighbor, Jim Brenner. On the surface, Brenner was just a cranky old farmer, but a deeper look at his past revealed something far more sinister. Brenner had a long criminal record, aggravated assaults, weapons charges, and violent threats that stretched back decades. He wasn't just eccentric, he was dangerous. Even Dylan's father recalled an unsettling incident. Brenner once pulled a gun on him during a heated argument, threatening to blow his head off. Yet, despite this violent history, Brenner blended into the search. He showed up, offered help, and deflected suspicion toward others. His calm cooperation made him seem harmless, at least at first glance. But detectives began to notice something else. His comments about Dylan often slipped into the past tense, as if he already knew Dylan was dead. That, combined with his criminal past and his proximity to the shed, raised red flags. Police served him with an arrest warrant, not for Dylan's disappearance, but for illegally possessing firearms as a felon. It was a routine move, yet locking him up would open the door to a chilling chain of events and expose just how much Brenner was hiding. The breakthrough came from someone police least expected: Brenner's own friend, Donald Hatley. From the start, Hatley had worked alongside Dylan's family, joining search efforts and standing by Brenner's side. But weeks later, guilt or fear pushed him to speak up. Hatley revealed a shocking detail. Just days after Dylan vanished, Brenner showed up at his place with several guns. He wanted Hatley to hide them. Brenner was a convicted felon who wasn't allowed to own firearms, and he claimed he was worried police might seize everything he had. But the timing was too suspicious to ignore. Dylan was missing, blood-stained boots had been found, and now Brenner was stashing weapons? Detectives seized the guns and added fresh firearm charges to Brenner's record, keeping him behind bars. To Hatley, it seemed like Brenner was just being cautious, but to investigators, it looked like the first crack in his story. A man scrambling to cover his tracks. Unknowingly, Hatley had just handed police their most incriminating lead yet. For the first time, Brenner wasn't just a strange neighbor with a violent past. He was a suspect with secrets. And now, the walls were closing in.
Can you guess why the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office would maybe want to talk to you about anything?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. What's that, you think?
My Zoe.
Who's that?
James Brenner.
Okay. Why would we want to talk to you about him?
Because he's the only one I know that'd be connected to Box Elder.
Okay. Do you think you have anything that might be able to help us?
Maybe.
Brenner's arrest seemed routine, just a way to hold him on gun charges while detectives searched for real answers. But jail has a way of loosening tongues. Soon, whispers began circulating from inside. Brenner was talking, not to police, but to fellow inmates. One cellmate finally came forward with a story too detailed to ignore. He claimed Brenner had confessed. According to him, Dylan had walked into the shed that morning to shelter his grain truck. Brenner, furious at Dylan for using what he saw as his space, snapped. A heated argument escalated into violence. Shots were fired. Dylan went down. The cellmate even described specifics: a bite mark Dylan left on Brenner during the struggle, a revolver used in the killing, and the chilling detail that Dylan's body had been buried nearby with heavy machinery. He told detectives Brenner burned clothes to destroy evidence and hid weapons with his friend Hatley. For investigators, it was the first time they heard a coherent version of events linking Brenner directly to Dylan's death. The problem? Inmate testimony is unreliable without proof. Detectives needed hard evidence, something that could stand in court. And soon, they would get it. The forensic results from Dylan's boots finally came back. The blood belonged to Dylan. But that wasn't all. The boots also carried Brenner's DNA, placing him at the center of the crime. Detectives then combed through Brenner's phone data, GPS records showed it pinged near a pond the day Dylan vanished. Divers were sent in, and what they pulled from the murky water changed everything. Dylan's phone. Miraculously intact, it contained the smoking gun, footage of Brenner, wearing a blood-stained shirt, cleaning a gun. It was damning, with DNA tying him to Dylan's blood and video evidence catching him mid-cover-up. The case against Brenner became airtight.
Chilling evidence made public in the disappearance and murder of 19-year-old Dylan Rounds.
KSL investigates Courtney Johns obtained the video that played a big part in James Brenner being convicted, according to a probable cause statement filed in 2023.
It's so nonchalant. Like, how can you be that nonchalant? You just shot Dylan in the head twice. And it's just like, okay, I'm gonna go to my camper and clean myself up. I can't wrap my head around that.
Now, this video clip appears to have been captured completely on accident by Brenner. Dylan was missing for almost 2 years before his body was found. After pleading guilty, Brenner told authorities where Dylan was buried. Last night was the first time Candace has ever seen this clip of Brenner.
Still, one piece was missing: Dylan's body. Without it, prosecutors worried about pushing for the highest charge. But Brenner, cornered by the weight of evidence, saw an opportunity. He dangled what detectives needed most: Dylan's location in exchange for a deal. For months, negotiations dragged. Finally, in 2024, Brenner led authorities deep into the desert, pointing to a carefully concealed burial site. Underneath, they found Dylan's remains: bones, fragments of clothing, and the final confirmation of his fate. The discovery of Dylan's body closed the darkest chapter in his family's life. For nearly 2 years, they'd lived with uncertainty, combing the desert, hoping for answers. Now, there was no doubt. Dylan had been murdered, and his killer was the man pretending to be a helpful neighbor all along. In May 2024, Brenner pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and additional firearm charges. Prosecutors dropped desecration and assault charges in exchange for his admission and the recovery of Dylan's remains. By July, Brenner was sentenced: 1 to 15 years for murder, plus 2 more 1 to 15-year sentences for weapons possession. For Dylan's family, it was justice, but not peace. He had been just 19, building a dream few his age would dare chase. That dream ended in a shed, betrayed by someone he trusted. The most chilling part? Detectives had stood inside that shed, talking with Brenner, unaware they were walking through the very crime scene. The killer had been in plain sight the entire time, hiding behind lies, pointing fingers, and waiting for the search to pass him by. But in the end, the truth caught up. Dylan's killer was unmasked, and at last, his family could lay him to rest.
A man accused of killing a Utah teen has been given the maximum sentence allowed. In a plea deal, 60-year-old James Brenner admitted to the murder of Dylan Rounds. As part of the deal, he helped investigators find Dylan's remains, which were recovered in April. Police previously said Brenner was living in a trailer and the closest living neighbor when Dylan went missing back in May of 2022. Today, a judge sentenced him 1 to 15 years in prison for Dylan's murder.
For months, everyone asked the same question: why would Jim Brenner kill Dylan Rounds? The answer wasn't money or a calculated plan. It was Brenner's violent temper colliding with Dylan's independence. Brenner was a man defined by anger. Neighbors knew him as volatile, quick to pull a gun, quick to threaten. Dylan, on the other hand, was bold and ambitious, unafraid to stand his ground. That morning in the shed, the clash was inevitable. Dylan moved his truck in, treating the space like his own. Brenner exploded, furious at the intrusion. When Dylan picked up Brenner's pistol and fired a warning shot, the older man snapped. The fight spiraled into chaos, ending with Brenner grabbing a .22 and pulling the trigger. It wasn't about greed. It wasn't about strategy. It was about control, an angry man lashing out and a young dreamer caught in his path. Justice finally pierced the desert silence. Jim Brenner's lies collapsed under DNA, Dylan's phone, and his own confession. For nearly 2 years, the killer stood beside police, hiding in plain sight. But the truth doesn't stay buried forever. Dylan's fate was revealed, and the shed's dark secret became a nightmare no one could ignore.